What up? What up? What's good? Welcome to Leadership Over Libations, the place where creatives, visionaries, entrepreneurs, and those who aspire belong. I'm your host. You already know, Mr. T Brown, and we got a good show for y'all, man. Today is more personal, more direct. This was one of the things that I was planning on doing, but it came a little bit sooner than expected. Early on in our launch. But now that we launched, man, we rocking and rolling. So I appreciate all the people who've been watching, who've been following, who've been subscribing, who've been listening, you know what I mean, on all the audio platforms. But today, man, we're gonna do it just a Q&A, you know what I mean? I did on my social media, I did an actual poll, you know, and asked a lot of questions or asked people, you know, what they were thinking, you know what I mean, as it relates to being an entrepreneur, as it relates to being an aspiring entrepreneur, a creative, and things of that nature. So we got a lot of questions, you know, an influx of questions, man. I'm just grateful that everybody reached out, everybody started plugging in and, you know, just asking those questions that people really want to know. So I had a lot of them, but we're going to do about 15 of them today, you know, due to the time, you know, sensitivity and things of that nature. But yeah, we're going to get right into it, man. So as accustomed to, you know, what we do here, Leadership Over Libations, you know, we have libations over, you know, over conversations and libations of choice. And if anybody been watching and been listening, you know, I'm a champagne dude, you know what I mean? If it ain't Lux White, it ain't right. You know what I mean? But today, you know, it's kind of hot out. You know, it's about 90 plus degrees here. You know, I'm sitting on the top of my deck, on the rooftop, you know what I mean? Just chopping it up with y'all today, man. So it's going to be a real in-depth, informative, you know, Q&A session from me to you, from you to me, and just answering some questions, man. So hopefully the people that reached out are tuned in so they can get their questions answered. But as you know, we toast to the pie in the sky. P standing for a positive, I standing for informative, and the E standing for a euphoric conversation. So here's to y'all, man. I'm sipping on this blue. I'm wearing blue today. You know, I mean, I'm kind of uniform. So it's like I said, it's real nice out, man. So I want to sit out on the deck and do some real personal stuff with y'all today. So cheers to y'all, man. All right, yeah. Hopefully everybody is got a libation of choice, man, and just tuned in. So let's get comfortable. Let me adjust myself a little bit so we can kind of chop it up. All right. So first question, man, I got is about leadership and business growth. Uh, it says, hey, this is Marcus from Charlotte, North Carolina. What would you say your biggest leadership failure? What would you say was your biggest leadership failure and how did it shape who you are today? I'm going to read that again. So I'm just reading it off my phone. It says, hey, this is Marcus from Charlotte, North Carolina. What would you say your biggest leadership failure was and how did it shape who you are today? So, Marcus, I'm glad you said that, you know, or asked that question, man. For me, if you a leader in business, you always gonna fail. You know what I mean? It's never, in my opinion, your last failure. You know what I'm saying? So, I would say my biggest leadership failure, early on, is really just not trying. You know what I'm saying? Like not giving myself an opportunity to fail. You know what I mean? And so I've read books, you know, failing forward, you know, different type of books that encourage failure. Because that's a lot of times in business and in entrepreneurship and leadership, you know, people try to avoid failure. They try to avoid the inevitable. They try to avoid the pitfalls of business and of life. You know what I'm saying? But in this game, man, if you really serious about accomplishing your goals and dreams, you know, you got to be prepared for failure because you're going to get it. You know what I mean? So hopefully that answers your question. But to dive a little bit deeper, because you did ask, how did it shape who I am today? You know, being able to start a business that you believe in wholeheartedly, that you really truly want it to be successful, and then it fails or it doesn't work out as planned, um, it does something to you. You know what I mean? Mentally, physically, emotionally, financially. But for me, it shaped who I am today, having those early on kind of L's, so to speak, because I understand that it's a part of the game. You know what I mean? So it shaped me to be a lot greater in business today, understanding that going in, that anything is possible. You know, it's big wigs and big companies that have been here today, gone tomorrow. You know what I mean? So yeah, it shaped me to who I am today. Just understanding that, you know, losses are not, you know, always the end all be all. You know what I mean? Losses are really lessons. So we gonna keep it rolling. So yeah, that's a good question, man. Let me see. Number 2 says, "What's up? It's Trina from Oakland, California. I've been running my business for 2 years and I'm feeling stuck. How do you know when to pivot versus when to keep pushing?" All right, so I'm gonna read that again. "What's up? It's Trina from Oakland, California. I've been running my business for 2 years and I'm feeling stuck. How do you know when to pivot versus when to keep pushing?" All right, Trina. So me personally, what I would say to that is, you know what I mean? If you've been running a business, I don't know what particular business that is, but in any business, you know what I mean? If you've been running a business for 2 years and you still able to be in business, um, the only thing I can say is keep going. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no right or wrong way to go about, I want to say, uh, business as it relates to pushing through the obstacles, right? You know, it may be hard. It may be, you know, one of those things to where it's, you feel in your mind and in your heart that maybe I should just, you know, do something different, or maybe I should throw in the towel. You know, if it's making, you know, money, keep pushing, do some things different. You know what I mean? And when you say pivot, pivot can mean staying in the same business, just doing something different than what you've been used to doing or what hasn't been working. So I would suggest, you know what I mean, if you have been in business for 2 years and you feeling stuck in different areas, you know, pivot in your business as it relates to going back to the drawing board, you know, going back to what your true passion, you know, for starting that business was. And then as far as keep pushing, you know, again, just in that itself, keep pushing, you know, don't give up, you know that it's going to get greater later. And again, if you are profitable, if you are seeing, you know, success in whatever capacity, do what you've been doing. But if you've seen some kind of some slacking or some lacking, so to speak, in different areas, just tighten up in those areas and you should be good. So yeah, definitely. Another great question, man. I appreciate you, Trina from Oakland, reaching out to us. Number 3 is, "This is Darnell out of Dallas, Texas. I got a good job, benefits and all, but I'm feeling the itch to go full time as an entrepreneur. What helped you make the leap when fear tried to hold you back?" That's dope. That's dope, Darnell. Check this out. It says, "This is Darnell from Darnell from Dallas, Texas. I got a good job, benefits and all, but I'm feeling the itch to go full time as an entrepreneur. What helped you make the leap when fear tried to hold you back?" I can speak to that in so many different areas, because for me, Darnell, I am a serial entrepreneur. Like when I graduated high school, went to the military, came back to civilization, I didn't go to a job. You know what I mean? I just knew early on that a wage wasn't for me. You know, can't nobody pay you better than you can pay you. And I realized that early on enough to be able to say, you know, I didn't want to go punch a clock. I didn't want to go chase a check, you know, trading time for money. It just wasn't, you know, part of my DNA. So for me, you know, having the good benefits, and I know people say that, you know, that's a sense of security, right? That's a sense of, you know, I'm good and I'm making money and I got my benefits, and, you know, I don't want to lose none of that, you know. But if you feeling that itch, like you said, to become an entrepreneur full time, you know, what I would say to my early self today is, if you do got a job, if you do got a quote unquote cushion and you do got some income coming in, stack as much as you can and pursue your opportunity or your entrepreneurship part time. You know what I mean? Like transition gracefully instead of, you know, jumping head first and then bumping your head and losing everything. You know, and that may be a lesson, you know, for some people that they need to experience. But for me, if I was talking to myself in you, I would say, you know, keep your job, keep your benefits, and make an exit plan. You know what I mean? 90 days, 6 months, a full year, whatever it is, just make an actual game plan to execute, you know, in a certain amount of time so that you don't look crazy. You know what I mean? So what helped me make the leap in any business that I do is pretty much just like you said, it's just taking the leap, taking a step of faith and knowing that, hold yourself accountable to know that if I mess up or if it don't work out right, it's all on me. You know what I mean? So yeah, definitely, man. Like I said, if I can speak anything to you as it relates to the transition and that itch ain't gonna go away until you scratch it. You know what I'm saying? So the only way that itch is definitely gonna go away is if you really truly pursue entrepreneurship. And that again can mean part-time, transition into full-time. All right. So hopefully that answered that question. Let me take another sip, man. This Bel Air Blue again. Shout out to Bel Air, Sovereign Brands, Brett Barish, my main man. Yeah, but number 4, I think. Yeah, number 4 we on. Hi, I'm Jasmine from Detroit. What's up, Jasmine? Early in your journey, what's one business myth you believed that completely turned out to be false? Jasmine from Detroit says, early in your journey, what what's one business myth you believe that completely turned out to be false? Um, for me, I can say the business myth that I was told or that I kind of almost kind of read into a little bit was that business ain't for everybody. That's a lie. I'm a firm believer that you're either a consumer or the one being consumed, right? You're either a lender or a borrower. You know what I'm saying? You are either right or you're wrong. You know what I mean? So for me, the biggest business myth that turned out to be false is that again, business ain't for everybody. Business is for everybody that wants it. You know what I mean? Like there are people, and the reason why I say that is because without employees, there would be no such thing as employers. Every business has levels and different positions for people to play, just like on a team. You know what I mean? You got the coaches, you got the coaches staff, you got the medical staff, you got the ball boys and girls, you know what I'm saying? The water boy and girl, and you got the referees, you got the general managers, and then you got the players, right? Everybody is very vital to everything moving and making sense. But if there was no employees, employers wouldn't have a business and vice versa. You know what I'm saying? So if there was no businesses, there would be no jobs. There would be nobody being able to make no money. So like I said, the biggest myth for me, was business ain't for everybody. Just get a good job, get a good degree, get a good job and live, the American dream, so to speak. But I don't know the definition of a good job nowadays. Just over broke is my definition, because again, can't nobody pay you better than you can pay you. So either you going to work for somebody or you going to build something great so that others can work for you, or you can make ways for people to become business owners themselves. So another good question, Jasmine. Hopefully that answered your question. Number 5, we rolling through this, man. Like I said, I got 15 questions. I'm gonna try to get through all of them in the time that I have allotted. Let me see. Number 5 says, yo, this is Rico from Brooklyn. Rico, what's good? If I don't have much capital or clout yet, how can I build trust with a team or collaborators? Yo, this is Rico from Brooklyn. If I don't have much capital or clout yet, how can I build trust with a team or collaborators? So, what I would say to that, Rico, is you got to start somewhere, right? I hear a lot of times, growing up, people said you got to fake it till you make it, right? Having capital or clout is necessary, but it's not so much as a requirement out the gate. It starts with a thought. You know what I mean? Like thoughts become things. So for me, personally, starting out in business, I didn't have a whole lot of capital. I didn't have a whole lot of, money laying around or a lot of people willing to invest in me and my vision and what I was trying to do. And as it relates to clout, yeah, people can know you, people can know of you, people can so-called support you, you know what I mean? But if you don't have, I want to say, the mindset, you know what I mean? You can't make it in nothing. You know what I'm saying? So you can build trust with people, just by being who you are. They got to see that you unapologetically you. They got to see that you authentic. They got to see that you real, that you transparent, so you build clout with people based on relationships and based on how you interact and how you deal with people. And then, like I said, building the trust with a team or collaborators, people will work with you if they see where you going is somewhere, promising. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think people will attach themselves to something that ain't going nowhere. You know what I mean? So if you believe wholeheartedly in what you're doing and where you're going, people will attach to you. You know what I'm saying? They'll latch on to you and wanna roll with you, even if they just want to ride with you to see if you're gonna fail or see if you're gonna give up along the way. You know what I mean? But either way it go, don't worry too much about not having no money. Just start, just do it. Do your research. You know what I mean? It's a lot of ways to get money out here, that I didn't know and understand early on. There's, man, grants, there's, startup business funding and all kind of stuff that you can do, right? So yeah, just tap into that, man. And explore your surroundings currently, whether it be big or small. Just explore those people around you and build from there. Another good question, man. So yeah, thanks Rico from Brooklyn. Uh, Personal development and mindset. So I did some questions and some polls about personal development and mindset. You just asking things like, right now where you are currently and the way that you think about life, will it get you far or will it keep you stagnant or in the same place? Kind of sort of like to that. But this particular question, number 6, comes from it says, "Peace, King." That's what's up. I appreciate you, Queen. It's Ayana from Richmond, Virginia. It's Ayana. Hopefully that's Ayana or Ayana. If I messed it up, my fault. I apologize. But it says, "Peace, King." It's Ayana from Richmond, Virginia. What's one mindset shift or habit that changed everything for you mentally and emotionally? What's one mindset shift or habit that changed everything for you mentally and emotionally? There's so many ways I can answer that question. But when you say mindset shift or habit, right? For me personally, the mindset shift that I had was just thinking that this is enough, or being comfortable, right? So I had to shift my mindset from being thinking that what I'm doing right now, it may be good, it may be profitable, it may be working, but I got to get out of that comfort zone in my mind thinking that just because it's good don't mean it can't be great. You know what I'm saying? So the habits that I had to change, and I'm glad you said that, that goes hand in hand, because habits are formed by what you do in a comfort mentality. You know what I mean? Like things that you are used to doing and accustomed doing, even if it ain't beneficial or it ain't profitable, you still do it. And that becomes a habit. Some people have bad habits, some people have good habits. I formed good habits around making money and around being successful and around being an entrepreneur, being around people, like-minded people, talking to people that are going somewhere. So the mindset shift and habits that I adapted along the years, um, shaped me to who I am today because I understood that, you are who you hang around or who you speak to. And you are 100% of who you think you are or not. If you don't think you can do something, then you 100% right. I have a planner out called "If You Aim at Nothing, You Bound to Hit It," guaranteed. Y'all go pick that up. But yeah, that's real talk. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to change your habits. You have to have a mindset shift on a regular basis. Because what you did to get you where you are now, ain't necessarily what's needed or what's gonna work to get you to the next level. So hopefully that answers your question. I didn't want to be too long winded with that, but it's kind of straightforward. You know what I'm saying? Mindset shift and habits have to always change in order for you to move, and grow. Number 7 says, "This is Elijah from Chicago." Elijah, what's good? "I be in rooms where I feel like I don't belong sometimes. How do you deal with imposter syndrome when it hits?" That's a dope question, man. I spoke about that in some episodes early on, or I believe in my promo episode when I was just talking about being an entrepreneur and establishing this platform for that matter. But you said, I be in rooms where I feel like I don't belong sometimes. How do you deal with imposter syndrome when it hits? The reason why it's easy for you to feel like an imposter, right? When you're in rooms with big wigs, you in rooms that you don't think you belong in. But like I said before, in the a latter episode, or earlier episode, I mean, you definitely belong in that room. You just got to believe that you belong in that room, right? So a prime example, it's like, imagine going, you don't have really nothing going for yourself. You pulled up to an event, in a trapper. You pulled up in an event in a beat up Camry. You suited and booted. You fresh to death, right? But you pull up to this event, and it's a lot of big wigs. You see Maseratis outside, Lamborghinis, Rolls Royces, all kind of stuff outside parked, right? And you go up in this event. It's a networking event, and you just getting a business started, or you looking to start a business, right? And you want to talk to some people. So you in this room and you feel little, and you feel like, damn, everybody in here winning, everybody in here eating. I shouldn't be here. But you are in the right place at the right time. You supposed to be there. If you were allowed in, or you were invited in, then you need to capitalize on that opportunity. So you don't have to feel like you being an imposter. But I believe us as a people, especially black men, we have that mindset that if I'm not here, or I'm not there, or I'm not where they are, I don't belong, or I'm not a man, so to speak, right? And what I've realized in the years of being in business is that, you need to have a mentor. You need to have a coach. You need to have somebody that's doing it, so that you can, emulate, or that you can model yourself after, right? So pride is the fall of man. It's a big deal. It's a disease. It's a hindrance to your growth. You know what I mean? So what I would say is, people need to just humble themselves and be in rooms with people that are doing better than them, that are making more than them, and ask the questions. How did you do it? You know, can I, follow you? You know what I'm saying? And that's humility for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to feel like you not that dude, or you ain't a real man if you following after another man that's got it going on. We all had role models growing up. Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, those are all goats in their own right. But when I was growing up, man, Mike was everything. You know what I'm saying? It was, I want to be like Mike. You know what I mean? If I can be like Mike, that's all it was. Wearing his shoes, you know what I'm saying, which I got on right now, like eating Wheaties, what I mean, like watching them on TV, winning championships, Bulls gear, all of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? So you model yourself after people that are winning and are successful in whatever capacity, whether it be music, ministry, sports, business, just a father, a husband, whatever it is. It's not nothing wrong with modeling yourself and basing who you are now and where you want to be off of where somebody else is. Does that make sense? So yeah, the imposter syndrome, it'll kick in sometimes. We got people that really truly to this day that will fake it till they make it. You know what I'm saying? That will go into parties, faking it, buying drinks and bottles that they can't afford. You know what I'm saying? Wearing clothes and jewelry and all that stuff, putting on a facade to look like something, but going home to, living in their mama basement and sleeping on the floor on an air mattress. You know what I mean? So yeah, definitely when you do feel that urge, to want to front or fake it till you make it, just sit back and think about what I said. Like, man, no matter where I'm at right now, I'm supposed to be where I'm at right now until I learn how to get where I want to be. Okay. Man, good question again. Like I said, Elijah, man, if that is you personally, man, keep going in them rooms. That's all I can say. Keep going in them rooms. Keep, venturing out, keep getting out of your comfort zone, and keep talking to people that's doing something, man. Latch on to those people. All right. Let me get another sip, man. This is good. This is getting good. We halfway there, y'all. All right. So number 8 says, hey, this is Shay from Atlanta. What's up, ATL, Miss Shay? Do you think being too humble can block your blessings in business? Question mark. Like, is there such a thing as too modest? Okay, Shay, I get you. I get you. It says, do you think being too humble can block your blessings in business? Like, is there a such thing as too modest? Yes and no. And I can touch to this a little bit mainly because um humility goes a long way, like I was saying earlier. Being too humble can, so to speak, block your blessings because they always say a closed hand, you can't let nothing else in it, right? So if you got a closed hand, you can't let nothing else in. But that means that if you already got some stuff going on, you already successful, already making, some nice, headway in business, you know, you're not open to other opportunities or other, things that can be a blessing to you, right? But when you open your hand, you got two hands, open up both of them, and now you got an overflow or influx of ability to grow in other areas. So when you think about, being humble and, just saying I'm good, I'm content, right? That's a form of humility, but it's also a form of being selfish, if that makes sense. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of people get, right? And then they get good enough for them and them in their family. But what happens to being, the person with overflow, the person that's able to be that's blessed to be a blessing, right? So, what I'm saying, you can never be too modest in business or in leadership or in life, because there's always somebody looking to you as the way out, or that may need you, right? And if you only got enough for you, then you really not no use to nobody. You know what I'm saying? So, again, if you do feel like you are humble, stay humble, but stay open, if that makes sense. I hope that answers your question. But it can block your blessings, but it also can be a good thing, because people tend to think that because you got money that you got to be a certain way or act a certain way, or hang around a certain crowd. But it's like, it's people mind this it's silent millionaires out here and billionaires that we all know of, right? And some that we don't even know of. I can walk up in a place, and you got all the flashy people that's in there, and you think, oh, them the ones that's having it, they the ones having money. But then you got the modest cat that's sitting there, regular t-shirt and jeans, a dad cap or something like that, a basic watch. But then when he get to running his mouth, you like, man, this dude is a mogul. This dude got millions and millions of dollars, assets under management and investments and all kind of stuff. So yeah, man, it's a twofold type of thing. Be modest, be humble in everything that you do, and just stay open. That's all I can say. Let's keep rolling. Number 9. What's good? This is Corey from Philly. Corey, what's good, man? If you could go back and have one conversation earlier in your journey, personal or professional, what would it be? If you can go back and have one conversation earlier in your journey, personal or professional, what would it be? Just like I said earlier, you know what I mean? I would have that conversation with myself, you know, as it relates to, excuse me, what do I want to be and who do I want to be, right? And I had that conversation with myself early on. That's why I went into entrepreneurship, because I knew, I wanted something big and I wanted something great, and I know I wasn't gonna get it from no job. You know what I'm saying? So, if I had to go back and have a question or a conversation earlier on with my earlier self, or my younger self, I would just say, man, you know, especially knowing what I know now, if I knew what I know now, then I would say it ain't gonna be easy, but it's gonna be worth it. You know what I mean? It ain't gonna be easy, but it's gonna be worth it. So yeah, that was a real short and sweet answer, and answer to that question, because it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, have those answers and those questions and those conversations with yourself daily. You know what I mean? Like, if you're not where you want to be in life in any capacity, have those hard conversations. Because a lot of times people want to avoid the hard conversations. They want to avoid the what they already know. You know what I mean? They avoid the stuff that they need to hear instead of what they want to hear. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's real out here. So good question, Corey. Number 10. Hey there, I'm Tasha from New Orleans. Tasha, what's going on? As a leader, how do you manage being vulnerable without giving away too much of your personal life? Tasha from New Orleans says, as a leader, how do you manage being vulnerable without giving away too much of your personal life? Um, Huh. That's another good question. Prime example, that's me. You know what I'm saying? I'm T Brown, but a lot of people know me as something different, you know what I mean, growing up. And people will try to attach who you are as a businessman to who you are personally or in your personal life, right? Um, Whatever it is, and that is something that they should be able to do. You know what I mean? It shouldn't be too far from it. You shouldn't be too uh far detached from who you really are as a person, business or outside of business, right? So again, I'm sure I use like LeBron, for instance. LeBron James is a phenomenal basketball player. Some call him the GOAT, some call him, whack, whatever it is. But one thing I can say about LeBron as a LeBron fan is that LeBron is a mastermind genius as it relates to who he is. He's in tune with who he is. He's a divine masculine man that understands that I don't give a damn, even though he entertaining a little bit from time to time, but he don't care about what people say, what people think. He got an awesome wife. He got awesome kids. He living a dream life. He done made massive, history in every, capacity in business and in basketball. So people try to attach the goat talk and he not this and he not that, and then look down upon him because of that. But he's still a man too, that is a father, that is a husband, that is a businessman, that put people on and got people, jobs and got people opportunities. You know what I'm saying? So, you can separate him, the basketball him, from the personal life him. Uh R. Kelly, Michael Jackson, artists, right? Oh, he did this, he did that. Chris Brown, Breezy is a phenomenal artist, phenomenal uh singer, phenomenal dancer, all that. But he's done some things in his past that people are still beating him over the head about. You know what I'm saying? So you got to learn how to detach and say, look, that is him. He's still Chris Brown. He made some mistakes because he's human, but I still love everything he do. I still love how he get down on the stage and his music. I'm bumping it. It's a lot of hypocrites out here. You know what I'm saying? If people had to really base them dealing with you or not off of what you did or didn't do in life, then a lot of y'all wouldn't even have friends, wouldn't even have, people, in your life. So you got to get out of that mindset. So yeah, like you said, how to balance the personal life and being vulnerable and not giving too much. And that's a good thing. You don't want to let everybody know into your personal life. People say, I live out loud, but I live in private, or however that saying goes. You know what I mean? There's people out here that live life unapologetically. They don't care. And that's one thing that I've learned early on. And as I got older, that man, I don't care what people think, what people feel, what people say. I'm gonna do me. It does nothing to me in my day. It doesn't help me sleep better or worse knowing what you think about me or how you feel about me, right? And once you get that I don't give a what attitude, and you get that and adapt that and embrace that, life is a lot better. You know what I mean? You live a dream quality life. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, definitely be vulnerable. Let people see that you genuine. Let people see that you are real, but don't get so caught up and don't get so hung up on having to be a people pleaser. You know what I'm saying? Don't get so caught up in if I go this place or I do this or I don't do that, people are gonna look at me different and they're not gonna support me in business, or vice versa. So hopefully that answers your question. It's getting a little hot out here, man. It's real hot. Like I said, it's 90. I'm in the shade, but still a little hot. Um, all right, where we at? Where we at? Where we at? We just left off with Tasha. Good question again, Tasha. All right, number 11. This is Byron from Denver, Colorado. Byron, what's good? What's one lesson you want your kids or young people watching you to understand about success that you had to learn the hard way? It says, what's one lesson you want your kids or younger people watching you to understand about success that you had to learn the hard way? Um, one thing, I do have kids, you know what I mean, that have seen me in business my whole life, their whole life. Um, and one thing I want them to understand about success is that it's guaranteed if you pursue it. But another thing I will say to that, like when you said a lesson that I want people to understand, is that ain't nothing, I want to say it's not something that's, I'm kind of stuck there. Not stuck, but I want to convey this the right way. I would say nothing is supposed to be given to you. Everything is supposed to be earned. Everything should be earned because you appreciate it better. For me, early on, I never had the privileged mentality, or I think that people supposed to just do something for me or give me something because of who I am, right? But what I understood and what I realized, in business, coming up, that I would say to my kids, if they haven't already seen it, is just, stay in the course. You know what I mean? Like, a lesson that I had to learn the hard way in business is thinking that everything that I do is supposed to succeed, or everything that I do is supposed to, amount to something great. Where a lot of times it's things that you're going to do in life and in business that are supposed to fail, that are supposed to not work out the way that you intended for it to work out. And that's a part of God's provision. You know what I mean? I had to learn that. And that's one thing, again, to answer your question, hopefully, that I would say to my kids and to kids that are watching, that are listening, that will come across this video or this audio, is that don't be afraid to mess it up. Don't be afraid to take a chance and possibly fail. It's no different than, uh, you as a young man growing up and you see a girl that you like in school, or, as a teenager or as a young adult, you out and about with your friends and you see a girl that catch your eye and you want to talk to her. You know what I mean? You have to tell yourself that what's the worst that can happen? She can just tell me no, right? So you lost already if you don't even attempt. You lost already even if you don't try. So the lesson that I learned the hard way is, early on, is you can't procrastinate. You have to go for it. It's a lot of things that I wish I would have done in my earlier years, in my 20s, that obviously I've caught on to and have done today. But I would say, learning lessons early on is the best blessing you can ever have. Because, again, man, you got to be willing to go do something in order to be able to say it didn't work because, or I never want to be the person that the woulda, coulda, shouldas. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a lot of people that the woulda, coulda, shoulda. If I would have just did this, or if somebody would, no, man. If you have an opportunity to do something great with your life, do it. So that's a lesson, that I would say, that I learned the hard way early on, is just not attempting. You know what I mean? Not trying. And I learned that early on, and I've really been doing the total opposite since. I'll try my hand at everything and anything as long as I believe. And the key word is I. If I believe it's going to get me somewhere, it's going to grow me, or it's going to elevate me, or it's going to, teach me, then I'm willing to do it. So good question, Byron. I appreciate that, man. Um, Number 12, it says, "Hi, I'm Chelsea from Seattle. Do you think the traditional leadership model is outdated in 2025? Like, what does real leadership look like now?" She says, "Do you think the traditional leadership model is outdated in 2025? Like, what does real leadership look like now?" That's real easy. Real leadership today, and it can be a little confusing because of the leaders that we see in office and the people that we see running our cities, our states, our countries, all that stuff, right? Leadership is whatever you believe it to be. A lot of people have role models and people that they follow in whatever capacity based on their belief level and based on what they see in that person or in those things, right? If you see value in something, you follow it. If you see value in this person, you follow them, right? So that's leading, leading the pack, leading the way. So leadership doesn't look like nothing no more. It looks like what it is. It looks all over the place, but you have to find something or someone to follow that's worthy of being followed. That's all I can really say to kind of sum that question up. Follow what you believe and what you feel is worthy of being followed. Um, Number 13, we down to the last couple. What's up? What's up? This is Dre from Miami. What's up, Dre? Do you think leaders should always be held to a higher moral standard, even in their private lives? Do you think leaders should always be held to a higher moral standard, even in their private lives? That kind of goes back to the question that we had a little bit earlier. I don't believe so. You know what I mean? Like, I don't believe that just because you're a leader, you can't make mistakes. You know what I'm saying? Like, as a leader, you mess up. You're human. You know what I mean? There's people that you hold to a high regard and you think they can't mess up. And as soon as they mess up, it crushes you. It crushes your whole world, your whole understanding, right? And that's the worst way to look at leadership. For me, I've made many mistakes. I've let people down, my mama, my kids, in different capacities. But what I realized too, to that, Dre, as a leader, I let myself down more than I let people around me down. I say that again. I've let myself down more than I've let the people around me down. And the reason that is because a lot of times we be in our own way. We be thinking something is wrong or we did something that people are not going to be good with or happy with, and it really just be us. We our own enemies. um and so I've had multiple people tell me, you know how they feel about me and how they appreciate me and how grateful they are to have me a part of their life. And in all that time, I'm thinking that, damn, I'm missing the mark, or I'm thinking that, damn, I'm not, who I need to be for them. So yeah, it's definitely one of those things to where you have to separate again, like I said, the personal from business, or the private life, from your business life, but keep it all tied together in a way to where people that see you, they know that you genuine, they know that you natural, they know that you real, that you authentic. That's you by default. Don't never change that. That's who you are. That's what makes the fabric of who you are as a person, as a human being. But your private life, if you like to kick it, you like to drink, I use an example like this. People at church, right? Church, the I don't want to get too deep in it, but I'll say, as a believer, as a person who knows the creator, has an intimate personal relationship with the creator, there are all kind of different religions, all different type of ways and different things to do, and different places to go to worship and to praise and to do whatever, right? But then you have those same people that show love, compassion, care, but it's conditional, right? And the creator loves unconditionally. So when you think about that and you say, okay, cool, well, that question says, how should a leader be held higher? Should he be held to a higher moral standard, even in their private lives? A church person can praise and do this on Sunday, but then during the week they a piece of what, or they just a crummy boss, or they a bad friend, or they a bad parent, or they just they do devious and bogus stuff. You know what I mean? And it catch up to you. You know what I'm saying? So it's like one of those things to where, how you do anything is how you do everything. That's another saying that people have. If I look at you as this type of person, in this capacity, I need to be able to look at you the same kind of way in this capacity. You're always the same. You're not wavering. You're not all over the place. So, again, hopefully to answer your question, it's like, I want to be the person that I have a private life. I don't let everybody know what I'm doing in the bedroom, or, behind closed doors with my family, or on vacations and stuff like that. Right. But I do want to be a person that when you see me, this is who you get and this is what it is. Right. And when you don't see me, just know that that ain't for you to see, or that ain't for you to understand. You know, I'm not an alcoholic, but being a brand ambassador and being a person that loves to drink casually, that's what I'm going to do. And I still love the Lord. You know what I mean? I'm not going to sugarcoat and water it down and say, well, there go the pastor, I'm going to put my drink up. No, I'm not doing that. That's fake. And if I believe wholeheartedly that that was going to hinder me or put me in a position where I miss the mark and I lose my salvation, then I'll do away with it completely. But it's so many things that people, that's a whole nother subject that we're not going to get into, because leadership over libations is what it is. If y'all don't like it, you know what to do. But yeah, that, like, my biggest thing is that, be who you are 100% every day, all day. And people who rock with you, rock with you. The people that don't, that's cool too. Okay. So Dre, hopefully that answered your question, man. We wrapping up. We got two more. 14 says it's Nina from St. Louis. Nina, what's going on? Can anybody really be successful without sacrificing something or someone? Be real. Ooh, damn. I got to take a sip on that one. Let me see. I'll read that again, man. Nina from St. Louis says, can anybody really be successful without sacrificing something or someone? Be real. All right, cool. I'm going to be real then, like I always am, but I'm going to be very real as it relates to this question. You said, can somebody be successful without sacrificing something or someone? When you talk about sacrifice, it almost sounds like a ritual. You know what I mean? But I heard the question that you asked as I was reading it. It hit right away. Yes, you can be successful. No, let me rephrase that. You cannot be successful without sacrificing something or someone. The reason why I say that is this: sacrifice means to give up, right? Means to rid yourself of, to lose, to kill off, or to dead, right? So when I think about, when you saying sacrifice something, there might be some things with an S, that you have to sacrifice in order for you to be successful, in order for you to make it in life where you want to go. Prime example, a lot of people like to kick it, like to go out every weekend, spend money that they don't have. A lot of people like to watch TV. A lot of people like to play the video games. A lot of people like to, hang out with friends, just doing random stuff, right? Whatever is taking you away from accomplishing what you really truly need to accomplish and want to accomplish in life, you got to sacrifice that. You know what I'm saying? You got to sacrifice that, because again, when we talk about comfort zones, and, understanding that true comfort is found in doing what's uncomfortable, right? So the comfort zones that we create in life are those things that are really truly hindering us or keeping us away from our greatest potential. So when you think about that, you say, well, shoot, when I get home from my 9 to 5, I want to start a business. I want to do this. I want to do that. But when I get home, ooh, The Shy is on, or Housewives is on, or I got to watch whatever reality TV. You know what I'm saying? I got to watch my favorite show on Netflix or Hulu, whatever it is, right? We have those things. Every Wednesday, I got to go out with the girls for ladies' night. Every Friday, I got to go out with my guys because, the club be popping. Those are things that are hindering you, truth be told. It's a time and a place for everything. And I always say, man, if you really don't have enough, and enough resources coming in and ongoing, you got to cut a lot of that stuff out. It's big sacrifice. Sacrifice now to have greater later. You know what I mean? And as it relates to someone, sacrificing someone, not again as a ritual, but you definitely need to sacrifice people or persons that are around you that mean good. It can be a significant other, it can be a friend, family member, whoever you rock with on a day-to-day basis, right? Because a lot of times people are in your way and they are around you in your circle and in your life as a distraction. And I'm not saying sacrifice and cut them off like I don't need my friends, or I don't need my lady or my man no more. No, what I mean is if, let's say, if you a man that has a wife that works a 9 to 5 and you're an entrepreneur, you have some negative women that'll be like, forget that entrepreneur stuff. That ain't putting money on the table. That ain't putting food on our mouths and keeping a roof over our head. So you need to go get a 9 to 5. You know, that's the worst thing a woman can do to a man, especially if he's an entrepreneur, if he's a creative, right? Um, but what I would say to that person that is in that situation is that not sacrificing that woman or that man, but sacrificing the time, right? And having them understand that I'm doing this right now for us to have the better, to have the greater, right? So if this woman or man works a 9 to 5 and you as a creative or entrepreneur not working right now or just lost a job but wants to go full-time entrepreneurship, treat it as a 9 to 5. Punch in every day, get up early, stay up late, you know what I mean? And apply yourself to the things that are necessary to help you and put you in position to become an entrepreneur, to where, you know, you can say, this is what I was talking about last year or 2 years ago or 5 years ago. This is why I paid the price. And this is what I needed to, this is why I needed to sacrifice, because I wanted to give you this type of life or whatever. Your kids, you know, I've been blessed, you know, to be able to have a life where my kids are now grown, you know what I mean, 18 and 21, both in college. I've been blessed to be able to have the lifestyle and afford them the life to where we can do whatever we want, when we want, how we want, right? I was able to go to all their, you know, gymnastics meets, recitals, plays, events, whatever it was they were doing in school or outside of school, birthday parties. I was always, you know, present. You know, you got to have a opportunity in life to be able to do those things. But then if you're not so fortunate and not so blessed to be able to do that right now, because you have a job and you're not able to get a whole lot of time off and stuff like that, let that be your why. Let that be the thing that says, you know, I need to push and go hard with my business so that I can do those things. You know, you sacrifice a little time. Hey, son, hey, daughter, hey, kids, dad or mom can't do this, and this right now because I'm working. I'm grinding. I'm trying to create a better life for us. But one thing that you don't want to do to kids, because they remember everything, right? They remember what you tell them. You don't want to tell them you on a mission and you doing something and then you playing around too. So definitely go hard, get tunnel vision focused, and do what you got to do so that you can create the life that you deserve, with and for them, so they appreciate it down the line. You know what I mean? So yeah, to answer that question, man, you definitely have to, you have to sacrifice something, some things, someone, or some people, in order to get where you're trying to be in life. And that may be temporary or that may be permanently, mainly because everybody that's around you don't mean you good, don't want you to be successful, are hating on you anyway. So, you know, choose wisely the things that you know, and the people that you know that need to be kind of so-called, cut off, you know, put to the side, um, do not disturb, whatever it may be, in order for you to get where you need to go. So Nina, I appreciate that question. So yeah, last but not least, we at number 15. Let me take a last little sip. Number 15, our final question says, yo, this is Jalen out in Phoenix, Arizona. Jalen, what's good, man? It says, if you lost everything, money, followers, your platform, what's the first move you'd make to bounce back? Man, that's a good question to end on. He says, if you lost everything, money, followers, your platform, what's the first move you'd make to bounce back? All right. So now I can get a little up close and personal, because again, you know, coming from where I come from, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, man, grinding my whole life, understanding entrepreneurship at an early age, and understanding that can't nobody, you know, give you nothing, you know what I mean? Or ain't nobody gonna give you nothing for that matter. So for me, I ain't a big social media person, but now I can say I wasn't a big social media person. Now I am. Even without a big following, I've still been able to make real substantial income, you know what I mean, via social media. And those are business models that if you stay rocking with me, that, you know, I'll reveal and show you and share with you. Because that's what this platform is all about anyway, you know, about leveling people up, right? But anyway, if if I lost my followers, if I lost my money, if I lost my platform, what would I do to bounce back? I would just simply say I would bounce back. um I'm a firm believer, man, that what's in you, it should be on you. You know what I mean? Like, if you really truly are a hustler, a go-getter, self-propelled, self-motivated, ambitious, hardworking, driven, you know what I mean? If you are that type of person, it ain't nothing that can stop you. So, excuse me, if people have lost millions of dollars, people have lost, their way, so to speak, have lost loved ones. I lost my granny in 2018, and that sparked me to be a better businessman. I dedicated one of my lounges that I opened up to my granny, you know what I mean? Because she wasn't there physically to see me open it. I dedicated it to her because she always believed in everything that I was doing. But again, if I lost everything, lost my followers, build new relationships. You know what I'm saying? If you lost all your money, grind it out, do some things that you wouldn't normally do legally, to grind, to stack, and to get back. You know what I mean? Like, a real true hustler, a real true grinder know how to pivot and knows how to, or should know how to, lose it all and get it all back. And sometimes I believe, it ain't got nothing to do with us. A lot of times, and I've been in that situation, to where, you've lost things that you thought were so big and so great and so devastating, but those were the things that were necessary. You had to lose that stuff to gain. You had to take that loss in order for God to be able to trust you with greater. You may not have been a great steward over everything that you've had prior, the hundreds of thousands and the millions, and you lost it, but you have the mindset and the hustle to be able to get it back and some. And he said, I'll give you double for your trouble, pressed down, shaking over, shaking together, running over. You know what I mean? Like, he'll put people in your life, to bless you and give to you, and resources and networks and things of that nature. So, if my word to you and anybody that's watching and listening is that if you lose anything in life, as long as you still have life, as long as you still have breath in your body, as long as you still have ability and opportunity, man, you can't lose. You know what I'm saying? You just got to go do it. Right. So yeah, if you lose it all, don't let that be the end. You know what I'm saying? Don't let that be the thing that says, oh well, I guess this is just my life and this is just what it's gonna be. No, don't accept that. You know what I mean? Like, literally use that as an advantage. Use that as your reason to go hard. Use that as your test to create a testimony. You know what I mean? And testimony outweighs opinion. You know what I mean? Like, when a person can tell you all this fluff and all the stuff they've been through and all this the rigmarole, right? The stories that sound good but really is fabricated and it's false, because it makes for good sales or social media, posts. But when you're a person that actually has been through some stuff and got some receipts and got people in your life that were affected from those things, then that makes you feel a lot better when you come up. You know what I mean? That makes you feel a lot better when you make it, because it's like, hey, I had something that I thought was good. I lost it all. And then I got back even more than I could imagine because I didn't give up. So yeah, man, I hope that answers your question, man. Again, I want to appreciate every single person that took the time out to get on to the stories on my social media, and answer those questions, or ask those questions, I should say, so I can answer them for you right here. So hopefully everybody that chimed in, you got your questions answered. And we're gonna do this a lot more, where we're gonna do at least, once a month or every other month, in the process of other segments and things of that nature. But y'all be looking out for, the Patreon that's coming soon, man. The locker room talk, I call it, being the fly on the wall, being able to hear from entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs, creatives, visionaries, moguls, business owners, people that's winning big, and people that took some losses too, being able to be in a room with people that are dropping gems, that are dropping nuggets, dropping game, you know what I mean, to help you to kind of not have to go through all the stuff that they went through, or the things that you are up against. You don't have to go up against it because they showing you a different navigation route. You know what I'm saying? So we definitely gonna implement that real soon, where people can tap into the VIP membership, be able to get those exclusives, behind the scenes, chop up sessions, and things of that nature, and be able to pitch ideas, because we do have a segment called Alley Oop and Assist with T Brown, man, and that's something that's gonna be real hot. We working on that right now, to where people can come on under the Patreon membership, and pitch their business, pitch their ideas, pitch their products and services and things of that nature. And we have investors that are on deck, looking to invest and looking to help and looking to assist. So definitely be on the lookout for that. So definitely, man, tap in, subscribe, like, share, comment, all the socials, on YouTube, on all the audio platforms, man. We appreciate y'all for rocking with us. Leadership Over Libations, man, the place where creators, visionaries, entrepreneurs, and those who aspire belong. It was good, man. I appreciate y'all spending some time with us today. But we gonna close with that. So yeah, man, rock with me, keep rocking with me, and I'm gonna rock with you, man. So cheers to everything that y'all got going on, man. See you next time. And remember, if you aim at nothing, you bound to hit it, guaranteed. I'm out.